fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Uncharted Media Podcast. This is episode 43. Tonight's topic will be our favorite TV characters, as more or less a follow-up / sequel to last week's favorite movie characters. But before we get to that, Josh, how are you doing tonight?
I'm
tired?
I'm a tired boy. I pulled a 14 and a half hour shift. I'm currently slurping on a little milkshake because the Sonic does half price after 8. So I was like, it's been a long day. I gotta treat myself. So it's been a day. It's gonna be a week, honestly, but obviously this is one of my favorite parts of the week. So I'm ready to get down to business, man.
Well, I'll give you a couple more minutes to enjoy that milkshake because I'm gonna talk about not one but 2 movies that I just saw. Monday, I saw the movie Crawl, the alligator one, and actually a couple hours ago, Heather and I just got back from seeing Stuber. So I'm gonna give my general thoughts about both those movies.
America.
I will give favorable reviews to both of them. Actually, I will say right off the bat, I did like Stuber a bit more than I thought I was. But I'll get into that in a second. Crawl was exactly what I thought it was going to be, but not nearly as good as some people were making it out to be. So I had heard going into it that Crawl was amazing, a sleeper hit, and it's good. It's like if a Sci-Fi Channel original movie was actually good. When it sticks to its premise of a girl trapped in a crawl space with alligators, because she's trying to see if her dad's okay in the middle of a hurricane, when it sticks to that, it's a lot of fun. It is some of the best tension in a movie and making me on the edge of my seat since A Quiet Place. But A Quiet Place, it is not. There's some family drama in it that just does not really click. And also, none of the actors in it are particularly great. They almost are like casted out of a sci-fi original movie because I don't recognize any of them. The main actress is kind of like a discount Emma Stone. But everyone is fine. There's quite a few wince-inducing moments. The gators are very realistic, and Josh, I'm sure you'll understand what I mean by this, but there's a couple parts that I personally winced.
Mm-hmm.
There's one part in particular that I'm actually watching the Saw movies right now, so I've kind of just gotten used to booby traps and violence. There's one part in particular that I had some serious PTSD flashbacks of something, and I almost threw up. I was like, oh no, let's not relive this. But there's some good tension built in it. Overall, it's a really good time, but I wouldn't say it's a great theater movie. It's an excellent Redbox I think the description I gave Heather when I came out of the theater was, it is an excellent Netflix movie, not a great theater movie. However, on the flip side, Stuber was a lot more fun than I was expecting it to be. This movie's not doing well with the critics. I think it's about a 50-50 split of if critics like it or if they don't. Personally, I really, really enjoyed it. Batista, his comedic timing is just spot on. The dude, when he sticks in his comedic lane, he's a riot. And he has great comedic timing with Kumail Nair, I think that's how you pronounce the name, who is, honestly, he's the MVP of the movie. His dialogue is so great. Just the premise of Dave Bautista just got LASIK eye surgery, so he can't really see anything. So that's why when he's tracking down this guy that he's been hunting for 2 years, he needs his Uber to more or less drive him around. And it is hysterical. It is so well done. It's not the funniest movie I've ever seen, or maybe not even the hardest I've laughed in a movie all year, but it is a nice, fun, lighthearted time in the theater. If you're looking for something fun to see in the theater, you just want to laugh, escape for a little bit, Stuber is a lot of fun. If not, I could definitely say see it on Redbox, but it wouldn't hurt to see it in theaters. It's actually a lot of fun and a lot better than I was expecting. That out of the way, let's get into the news, shall we?
Yes.
Because, oh, wow, I felt like I was just kept adding on to it this week because there's so much stuff. And we actually had to cut some stuff out. But first of all, this broke earlier of the day of recording. So we weren't initially going to talk about this, but we're like, oh, this is a pretty big deal. Not only has Marvel announced, well, Marvel hasn't announced this yet. I think it's Hollywood Reporter that was officially reporting this, but they're a pretty reliable source. We are getting Thor 4. not only are we getting Thor 4, but Thor Ragnarok director Taika Waititi is coming back to direct it.
Interesting.
I'm excited about this. Obviously, I'll go into more detail about why, but before I go into detail, Josh, what do you think about Taika Waititi returning? But also, what do you think about Thor 4 being more or less official?
Okay, so first of all, it's interesting to me that they're announcing a Thor 4 before a Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
So I have a theory about that.
Because technically speaking, I'm assuming at this point that it's gonna be the same thing.
I don't think so. I think they'll be
Really?
connected, but they'll be two separate movies.
Hmm.
Now, here's where my theory hat comes in. I think they were waiting to say this at Comic-Con, but it got leaked.
Okay.
Because Comic-Con is this weekend, and this is a big announcement that could have been a really cool announcement for Comic-Con, but I think it got leaked early. That's what I think.
Okay, I can see that.
But yeah, I think this is... I would not be surprised if like Guardians 3 and Thor 4 are connected somehow.
I can see that because when we leave Endgame, spoilers, they're in the same ship, so...
Yes, and James Gunn has said, however, that Guardians 3 is not as Guardians of the Galaxy. That's not at least what it's titled.
Yeah.
But James Gunn has been very vocal about he's known what the story for Guardians 3 has been for a while, even before Endgame. I'm under the impression that he knew the ending of Endgame and where characters would be at. But I think he's known the story for a while, so whether or not that includes Thor, I'll be very curious to see.
Yeah. But also, honestly, the writing, that kind of would excite me almost, though. Is having the Guardians of the Galaxy with the Waititi writing.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Very different. His writing's very different from James Gunn.
Yes, James Gunn. Both of them are really good comedic writers. I always get the impression with Taika Waititi, he's a little more fast and loose. Of a lot of Ragnarok was improvised. So if you can have that improvisational, there we go, style of comedy with the rest of the Guardians, I think, oh my goodness, Chris Pratt's improv ability mixed with Chris Hemsworth, oh my goodness.
Well, so the big thing is I would be okay with, let's say, Chris Pratt taking maybe a different direction with Star-Lord because he has kind of come off a little douchey as of late.
Yeah. Like an idiot.
More
so than he was in the first one.
Not really someone that we can get behind.
Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that gets remedied in Guardians 3.
I agree.
I'm more thinking if there's crossover between the Guardians and Thor, just the fun combinations that we could have of Korg and Groot, or Korg and Drax.
It'd be a lot of fun, honestly.
Oh yeah, that's even just to say that the Guardians of the Galaxy would even be in Thor 4. If it is a Thor movie, I could see it just being Thor by himself. Or, now hear me out, Chris Hemsworth actually did just recently sign on for, I think, 2 more Marvel movies. I forget, but he just re-upped his contract. I'm going to say something radical. There's a very good chance that Thor 4 doesn't have Chris Hemsworth.
Really?
This is my prediction. I think Thor 4 will star Valkyrie.
Interesting.
I could see Valkyrie becoming the new Thor.
Okay.
Because he kind of handed the baton off to her at the end of Endgame. And I highly doubt we'll ever see Natalie Portman back as Jane Foster ever again. So, maybe, somehow, some way, Valkyrie becomes our new Thor. Our new Lady Thor.
Huh. So you're saying you would say that over them bringing in the alien Thor?
I think, I could absolutely see Beta Ray Bill being in Thor 4, because we're getting more cosmic and weird. And it would make more sense for him to obviously be introduced into Thor than Guardians 3.
Yeah.
But yes, I see more Valkyrie than Beta Ray Bill as being our next Thor.
That's fair. I could accept that.
And that's one of those characters of if Valkyrie is our new replacement, like Sam Wilson taking over for Steve Rogers, it's one of those passing the batons that I'm actually really okay with because they did such a good enough job, at least for me personally, of establishing the character and making me care that if they're filling in these big shoes, I'm totally on board with it.
Well, and Valkyrie actually feels deserving of that title is the other thing.
Which is something I never felt was the case with Jane Foster, ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like Valkyrie, when Thor goes all fat, lazy, drunk guy, like Valkyrie is clearly the one that should be in charge. And she takes it upon herself to become ruler. So she, in my book, that makes her worthy.
Yeah, absolutely.
If not her as the main, I could see Thor 4 officially crowning her as the new Thor.
Yeah, I could see that too.
Like a passing of the baton, like a movie we will talk about later that seems to be getting people all up in arms.
Yes, I personally would love Beta Ray Bill.
I think he's coming. I think he's very much coming. They've set him up. They've teased him enough.
Oh yeah, I especially with bringing in Stormbreaker.
Yeah. But I think this is great. I pointed this out to Heather that this is actually this is the MCU's first fourth. Because, well, technically Avengers Endgame, but I think that's kind of a part 2 to the third Avengers movie. We haven't had a fourth installment to any single character's story. We had Iron Man 3, Captain America Civil War, even going back to Tobey Maguire. He had Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy, Blade trilogy. I'm trying to think of any other character that's had more than 3 movies as solo movies.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Which, this is kind of a big deal. But also, if we've seen the stats, Captain America and Iron Man still have the most appearances, so I think Chris Hemsworth in the back of his mind wants to tie that before he retires.
I mean, I could see that, but also on the other side of that is Ragnarok. He felt a life for the character that he didn't feel before.
Yes, he's like there was that sense of rejuvenation in the character.
Exactly. So he might be feeling like there's more to be done here now.
Yes, and with Taika Waititi on board, I would like to see more of Thor, more Korg, more Meek, more Valkyrie, just more of his style. We all know that I love Taika Waititi as a director and as a comedic guy, so I'm all on board for him, and I love Thor as a character, so I'm all on board for more of him. So another big thing that came out this past week, not a whole lot of trailers recently, but we had one for The King's Man, a prequel to the Kingsman series. Now, Josh, you are probably the bigger fan of the two of us of the Kingsman series. I like the first one, not as thrilled about the second one. I'm still quite on the fence for this prequel, especially after watching the trailer. But before I go into my thoughts, what did you think about the King's Man trailer?
I was definitely pleasantly surprised. I think we talked about it a couple weeks ago, about when they were announcing that this movie was coming. I was kind of confused as to what story there would be to tell. You know what I mean? But now I'm fairly on board. I why not at this point? The one maybe nitpick I might have was, and you're gonna laugh at me, the guy who is apparently playing our main character,
Ray Fiennes,
looks not Voldemort, the other one.
Oh yeah.
Looks so much like a discount Peter from Narnia that
who already kind of is a discount, just discount.
Yeah, exactly. But like, he looks so much like him.
William Moseley, I think, is that actor's name?
I don't remember his name because he's not in enough things.
Last time I saw him, he was in a random episode of American Ninja Warrior.
I feel like I've seen him in something recently. Some movie, I can't remember. But
But yes,
regardless,
looks like a discount version of him.
And it keeps throwing me every time. I do a double take every time he comes on screen, because I'm like, there's no way that that Pete. Because first of all, I think that guy, the Peter, would be fantastic in the role. It just throws me off that it's not him. So
he is British after all.
Yeah, and we'll never get the last battle, and I'm really mad.
You might on Netflix. Remember, we're getting a Narnia series.
Yeah, well, it won't be like the characters. Like, I'm sorry. Okay, a little side tangent.
Yeah, because you are the huge Narnia fan.
Well,
I am too, admittedly.
I mean, I wouldn't say huge, but the way that they were spacing out the movies made it perfect so that the actors that were playing the original, kids would be the perfect age for when they finally got to the last battle.
Well, the whole rights issue kind of makes it complicated of what studio had what.
And I understand that, and which is why I've not griped and complained about it, but that was always my hope, because the timing was pretty spot on.
So, going back to the Kingsman trailer.
Yes.
I think as a trailer for a movie, it looks pretty cool. They are intentionally kind of keeping it pretty vague. I will say, however, as a trailer to a Kingsman movie, however, I was a little disappointed and a little bit confused, because at least tonally, it does not look like a Kingsman movie at all.
Yeah, that was something I even said to myself. I was like, this doesn't feel like a Kingsman movie.
It feels like a war movie, not a... Like, the first two Kingsmen are so hilariously over the top, but in a super fun way. This is like, nope, we're going for the war horse vibe now.
Yeah. And I can't quite tell if I'm on board with that yet or not. Like, part of me is, but the other, I mean, I guess even the most ludicrous of stories has to, especially one like Kingsman, has to be based where, in some sort of seriousness, kind of, I guess.
Yeah, so I don't really know what to make of this trailer. I think this movie is incredibly well cast. Having Ralph Fiennes as your main actor is never a bad idea. I'm still on the fence. I think it looks interesting, and I'll be curious to see where it goes. But tonally, it looks so different from the previous two. So I don't really know what to expect, honestly.
Well, and you know what? Maybe that's exactly what the series needs.
Yeah, after the real ridiculousness of the second one, maybe Matthew Vaughn took that to heart and is going for more of a serious approach this time around.
I mean, yeah, and to his credit, and I think he found that, kind of dealing with the second one, is once you've been super ridiculous in the first one, you have to go over the top after that. You can't, like, regress back. You have to just get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Well, you got anything else before we go into one of the news topics that I'm super excited to talk about?
Yeah. Not really. I think the thing that stood out to me in the trailer is obviously the main speech that leads throughout, and I thought that was that's mainly what hooked me.
Alrighty. Yeah, it's been a slow week for trailers, so this was the only one that really stood out. Also, quick side tangent for trailers. I've been absolutely hooked on the Peanut Butter Falcon trailer. And if you have not seen it yet, folks, Google Peanut Butter Falcon trailer. It is like the most indie movie trailer you will see this year, but I genuinely am going to search this movie out when it comes in theaters, because this looks fantastic. Shia LaBeouf seems to be returning to form. But yeah, that quick side tangent out of the way. The newest topic that I'm most excited to talk about this week is Derek Kolstad, the writer and creator of the John Wick universe, has been brought on to the writing team for the upcoming Falcon and Winter Soldier TV series on Disney+. Oh boy.
Yeah, if you didn't want to see this series before, you definitely want to see it now.
Yeah, because something as great as the action is in John Wick, it's like the best thing about the series. I think another reason why the franchise keeps getting higher and higher in terms of its box office and its kind of critical acclaim is the writing and the world building around the movies itself. It's not just great gunfire and hand-to-hand combat and everything else. It's actually really good storytelling and world building. So I'm really excited to see an incredible storyteller in Derek Kolstad join the team, but also, dude knows how to write action.
No, absolutely.
Like, I have a pretty high standard, not just for the storytelling, but I'm now going to have a pretty high standard for the action set pieces for this series.
Oh, absolutely. And being that this is a movie with Falcon and Winter Soldier, that's just going to take both of these characters to the next level.
And I guarantee you now we will see Falcon in the white and blue Captain America suit, because the original end credit scene, it's not a spoiler because this isn't the actual end credits for it, but the original end credits for Spider-Man Far From Home was supposed to be Falcon showing up in the Captain America suit from the comics.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm excited for that day to see him in the suit, because even before I became a big Falcon fan, Falcon I still think is one of the most underappreciated people in the MCU. He's fantastic. I've always been a fan of that suit that he's got. It's so great, and immediately separates him from the Steve Rogers cap. But I'm excited to see the dynamic. Before Far From Home, we watched Civil War again, and just rewatching the scenes with Falcon and Bucky are fantastic. I love their chemistry together. Hot take time, because we do that from time to time.
Oh, well, here we go with the hot takes.
Hot take. I think Bucky has better chemistry with Falcon than he does with Steve Rogers.
Oh, absolutely.
I care more about those two characters than I do about Bucky and Steve. The movies always tell us that they're close, and you care about Bucky because you care about Steve. Their chemistry is always just like, we're brothers. Sure. But no, like, the Falcon and Bucky, they get on each other, but at the end, in the funeral for Endgame, they're actually there for each other. I think they have better chemistry.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's the number one thing I'm most looking forward to. Even more than The Mandalorian, actually, is Falcon and Winter Soldier.
I would legit, I mean, we both know I'm not going to, but I would pay for the
$7
Disney
a month, man.
We both know that I'm not going to, because I'm just going to borrow.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm going to borrow it from somebody else, because that's what I do, because I'm a cheapskate. That's not, okay, it's not cheapskate, I'm just broke all the time.
Yeah, there's a reason why I don't have Pop-Tarts in my house, and somehow it's your fault.
Oh, come on! It's been 5 years!
But it hasn't been 11 years. Speaking of 11, Millie Bobbie Brown from Stranger Things may or may not have just been cast in the MCU. She is denying it, but that is exactly what someone who's just been cast in the MCU would be telling us. So she may have just been cast in the Eternals, which is slowly but surely, if the rumors are to be believed, is slowly gathering a all-star cast of Millie Bobbie Brown, Angelina Jolie, Stubers, Kumail Nanjiani, Nair. I always forget his last name. I'm so sorry to that actor. Josh, do you think adding Millie Bobbie Brown is a great thing, an okay thing? What do you think of her as an actress?
I mean, as far as I'm aware, the only thing I've seen her in is
Stranger Things.
Is Stranger Things? Oh, that's what I was trying to think and make sure, because I could have sworn she did something else.
Godzilla.
That's what it was. I haven't seen Godzilla
Monsters.
yet. Yes, I haven't seen Godzilla yet. I don't know how she was in that, but I remember you seeing that movie though.
I have not seen Godzilla yet. Not the second one.
Really?
I've tried.
Okay, cool.
I've not been able to get around to it.
Yeah, it's a timing thing. I'm gonna have to wait till it gets to Redbox, and then I'll pop it in there. But as far as Millie is concerned, I'm down. I think she's a good actor, or actress, whatever you want the terminology is. But yeah, I'm not as familiar with the Eternals as with a lot of other things, so I'm not entirely sure what to expect. But obviously, if I think you and I are of the same mind when it comes to Marvel content. If they're going to put an all-star cast behind it and then actually, put some work into the actual storytelling, then yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, I can't sit here and pretend to know the Eternals like at all. I'm just going off like my general knowledge of comics. I'm like, are they anything like the New Gods from DC? Is that what they're like? Because I genuinely don't know anything about the Eternals. I know Stranger Things pretty well. And time for another hot take, because I'm full of them today. I'm not entirely sold that Millie Bobbie Brown is a good actor.
Really? Okay.
Because I'll say this. In terms of the entire ensemble cast of Stranger Things, and it could just be her character, I feel like I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but I think Eleven's the weakest character on Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Because of her performance, I'll be honest. Because Eleven's character is very one note. Is not a character that is required to express a lot of emotion. It's not a character that's required to do a lot of physicality. It's a lot of look stern and look angry about a given thing. I will say Millie Bobbie Brown does that incredibly well. I just don't think she's necessarily been given the most opportunities to show her full range as an actor/actress yet. So she could be phenomenal. I just don't think Stranger Things has been the best showcase of what she can do yet.
Yeah, and I agree. And to her credit, she's what, like 13, 14?
15, I think.
15? Yeah, she's got a lot of room to grow and a long way to go.
I'm just saying, compared to like her co-stars like Finn Wolfhard, who's been in a bunch of stuff, or Will or Dustin, I think she's kind of a weaker character because they don't give her a lot of other stuff to do. Maybe that's just the writing, but she's often comes across as very one note. So I'm not entirely convinced of her acting ability yet, but Marvel doesn't miscast people except Edward Norton, but that's a whole other side story.
That's a
whole podcast episode in and of itself right there.
Yeah.
Marvel clearly not really, sees because something we can literally in her, so I'm going to trust Sarah Finn in the casting department.
Yeah.
Now, casting that I am ecstatic through the moon about is we have more casting news in regards to Universal's upcoming, not Universal, Blumhouse's. There's a big difference, a much better difference, about Blumhouse's upcoming Invisible Man movie. So a while back we said Universal had more or less had given up on their dark universe after one movie, and we're just like, Blumhouse, fix our mess, please. So Blumhouse is slowly but surely reintroducing the old school Universal monsters. That was announced with Lee Winnell directing, who worked with James Wan to do Saw. We already had Elizabeth Moss announced as one of our actresses, as more or less the main actress. We now have our Invisible Man himself, Oliver Jackson-Cohen, better known for his work on The Haunting of Hill House. I love this casting because I'm blanking on his name. I believe his character name is Jack. He was the drug addict younger brother in Haunting of Hill House, which, fight me, Haunting of Hill House is the actual best show on Netflix. Better than Stranger Things. It is one of the best TV shows I've ever seen. I'm so hyped for season 2. I love The Haunting of Hill House. It's phenomenal scares, phenomenal acting, and Oliver Jackson-Cohen is a phenomenal actor, especially what he brought to the role. For Haunting of Hill House, I'm super excited to see what they do with this. But to me, it also shows that they are taking their time with this and really going for talent, but also the story of the Invisible Man with Elizabeth Moss believing that her ex, who will be Oliver's role, that he's dead, but in reality, he may not be. That's where the whole Invisible Man thing comes in handy. I think that's just ripe for a modern interpretation. Josh, I'm going to assume you haven't seen the original Invisible Man, but what do you think of Blumhouse doing The Invisible Man?
So I have not seen The Haunting of Hill House. I have no idea
didn't
who
think
this
you
guy
had.
is.
Are you caught up on Stranger Things at least?
I'm like the second episode in.
Okay, so you're more or less caught up. After that, watch The Haunting of Hill House and thank me later.
Fair enough. The only reason I'm not all the way through it is because I made a deal with someone in my life.
Oh, same. I'm not allowed to watch Stranger Things without Heather, and she's not allowed to watch it without me.
Yes.
That's one of the only shows, that and Scrubs, that we have to watch it together.
Yes. The deal was I had to save Stranger Things for her and I if I could go watch Umbrella Academy, and I think there was something else on my own, which I just finished.
Haunting
Umbrella
of Hill
Academy.
House.
I might do that.
There's only like 10 episodes.
Oh, that's easy to do. That's
There's only like 8 or 10 episodes, and they're all like an hour each.
Oh yeah,
it'll take you about as long as Stranger Things, but you'll like it more than Stranger Things, knowing dude. It's Mike Flanagan. Of course, you'll like it. If you like Oculus, which I know you do, you will like Haunting of Hill House. There's a lot of Oculus in it.
Cool. As far as The Invisible Man goes, modern interpretation. Why not? Let's do it. I mean, I think the Mummy, with when they were trying to reboot to do this dark universe. Yeah, get it out of your system.
That's one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
And
I had guests ask me all the time when I worked at Universal at the Mummy ride. Oh, I've heard that they're gonna reskin this or refurbish this so it's the Tom Cruise one. And I told guests blankly, straight to their face, no, because the Mummy movie was not good and we want to forget this movie happened. I told guests that to their face.
Yes. So, but to its credit, I'll give it this. It did make it a decent attempt at trying to.
No, they didn't.
I would say that it was.
No.
It wasn't good. It was an attempt nonetheless.
You know it's bad because the same people that tried to shoehorn in a universe in The Mummy are the same people that tried to shoehorn a universe into Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Okay, fair enough. But regardless, I think you can easily make these kinds of stories good in this modern interpretation, especially nowadays, because I don't think it's in today's storytelling. People are very much aware of what else is out there, content wise. So trying to make a Mummy movie or a Invisible Man movie is going to take something a little bit more creative to get people in those seats than just being like, there's gonna be a mummy and it's gonna kill people. Ooh, that's not that premise alone. Much learned by Thomas
Cruise.
Thomas Cruise.
That just sounds like a Dean Koontz or a James Patterson novel.
It does. Anyway, Timothy Cruise. I don't think I'm ever going to call him by his name now. Anyway, much learned by that movie. You can't just be like, by Timothy Cruise's by that Mummy. You can't just have a mummy in the movie and people are going to go see it, and that doesn't make it good.
The nice thing with this is the original Universal monsters. None of the original versions, at least, seem like they had very large budgets. They're all like small scale, intimate stories, which is what Blumhouse excels at. They make their movies for like 5 to 10 million and then make 80 to 100 million. So that's a good investment. And I'm excited because Invisible Man, you don't need a big budget. You don't really even need that many effects.
Yeah, you could. Excuse me.
You just need good story.
You can easily do practical effects, which are much cheaper.
Oh, absolutely. So this next one, I actually have a mini rant of course, because that's what I do. But it may not be the rant that people are expecting. So, again, this is just a report. just a rumor at this point, but Lashana Lynch is rumored to be the new 007 in the world of James Bond. Now, Lashana Lynch is the best friend sidekick character from the most recent Captain Marvel. That's literally the only thing I know her from. This naturally got a very, let's just say, mixed reaction from the internet of like, how dare you cast a woman as 007? How dare you cast a woman of color as 007? And I'm just going, I hate the human race sometimes.
How dare you cast a woman in the most misogynistic role there has ever been?
And here's where my rant begins. You morons. Nowhere in this rumor, because I've read the original article from the source, and they've said that this is a rumor. Nowhere in this rumor does it say Lashana is playing James Bond. Nowhere. It says she's taking over the role of 007. For those of you who didn't see Spectre, you lucky guys, because Spectre was awful. The end of Spectre, Daniel Craig's James Bond retires. So if he retires, MI6 needs someone to fill the shoes of 007. It is not James Bond. It is a position in MI6 that needs to be filled. I'm sure there was other Agent J's in the Men in Black besides Will Smith. Having her as 007 is not the end of the world. She is not replacing Daniel Craig. But although, let's say it together now, this is Daniel Craig's last Bond movie, and it may be for the best because he doesn't want to be there anymore. You have an actress that actually wants to be there. She may be replacing James Bond, but she is not James Bond. She's a new character, and that is a good thing. What are we always complaining about? Of shoehorning in characters or quote-unquote political correctness to shoehorn it into a universe. That is not what they're doing here. They're creating a new character, which is something we say we want all the time. They're doing it, so stop complaining about it. And for all those people that are like, you can't just have someone new be 007. This is James Bond, and there's this character, for those of you who know Bond, named M, who has been played by several different people, both male and female, because M is a title. It's not a specific character, and 007 is the exact same way. Ray Fiennes, who we just talked about in The King's Man, he's the current M. Before him, it was Judi Dench. Before her, it was some other actor. That character has been recast, but it always has been M, and it's always been a title. 007 is a title, and it is completely fine for someone other than James Bond to play that role. Rant over.
Yep. That's about all I got to say about it as well.
Just people just look for stuff to be offended by. Of how dare you recast James Bond? They're gonna recast James Bond after this movie anyway, because Daniel Craig's done. So are you gonna complain now? Or are you gonna complain later? Make up your mind. Because Henry Cavill is gonna be our new Bond. Mark my words. And we don't know if she will be 007 at the end of the movie or the beginning. I'm inclined to believe there'll be like some scene in the movie that Ray Fiennes as M will be like, come in 007, and she'll come in the room because Daniel Craig's Bond is still retired. And maybe she gives him back the title, or maybe he stays retired, leading open the door for a James Bond in the future. It's like people are like, you can't do that. You do realize James Bond is notorious more than any other franchise for recasting and changing up timelines, right? It is okay.
It's honestly the whole Bond fiasco that it's turning into now is quite.
It's going to be more entertaining than the movie itself.
Yeah,
and that's not even addressing the whole rumors of the villain that may be returning.
No,
you know who I'm talking about?
No,
there's rumors of a certain Christoph Waltz being on set and returning as Blofeld. To which I'm just going, wait, isn't Rami Malek the bad guy?
Look, man, I don't need you coming in here into your Bond franchise with logic and reason, okay?
This is going to sound horrible for me to say, but I kind of just want to get this Bond over with so we can get a fresh start. Because I feel like this is the end for Craig, and he's been done with it for a while. And I think he wants to move on, and I think fans have already started to talk about who's the next Bond before this movie even comes out. So that just kind of hangs over this whole production. So Lashana Lynch, if she's the new 007, not the new Bond, but the new 007, and they want to go in a new female-centered direction of having a new female 007 agent, fine. So long as it's good, go for it. Man, nice change of pace. Then, if you really wanted to, recast James Bond and reintroduce him to the world. That's totally fine with me.
I have nothing else to add to that, honestly.
Whew. I'm going to catch my breath and talk about Sherlock Holmes 3. This movie is finally happening after what feels like a lot of years. By the time this movie comes out, it will have been 10 years since Game of Shadows, which is just nuts to me. I'm conflicted how I feel about this. So, Guy Ritchie directed the first two Sherlock Holmes. Unfortunately, he will not be returning for Sherlock Holmes 3. Instead, we have director of the most recent Elton John biopic, Rocketman, will be directing Sherlock Holmes 3. Before I give my thoughts on this, Josh, what are your thoughts about the director change for Sherlock Holmes 3?
First of all, I haven't seen Rocketman, so I don't.
Me neither. I don't
really have any basis.
It's getting some good reviews.
Yeah, that's what I know. But also, like that's the kind of movie or director you saw. To me, that says somebody saw Rocketman and was like, "Oh, that's the new hot director," and then was like, let's have him do our Sherlock Holmes 3 movie because that'll give it some good rapport."
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily the case because I'd argue Guy Ritchie coming off Aladdin, which is just weird to say, is actually hotter than the director that did Rocketman.
Fair, I suppose.
Because Aladdin just passed the $900 million mark.
But is it deserving?
Actually, yeah. I actually quite enjoyed Aladdin. It was a lot better than I was expecting.
Oh, all right, then. Well, I mean, first of all, I don't really think we need a third Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, no, I will fight you on that one. This is long overdue. Because Robert Downey Jr., for some reason, ever since he joined the MCU, he kind of like turned down like every other movie except for Due Date for some reason. And The Judge. Like everything else has either been MCU or filmed before the MCU came out. Because I'm pretty sure he started production on Tropic Thunder before Marvel, because that also was 2008. And then he did Sherlock Holmes in 2009, which I'm sure that started production before Iron Man came out. By and large, he's just been an MCU person for like the past decade. So I'm glad to see him come back for Sherlock Holmes, as is Jude Law. I'm on the fence about this. I really liked Guy Ritchie's style that he brought to Sherlock Holmes. He brought this fun, high energy. But that being said, I can see why they want to go in a new direction. One, because it has been so long, but two, Game of Shadows was not nearly as good as the first Sherlock Holmes. So I could see them kind of wanting a new, fresh perspective on things.
Fair enough.
Now, I just have one request. When we eventually get this movie, please, please, please do the one thing that's always a fun Sherlock Holmes story avenue to go down when we do, is Sherlock Holmes versus Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
Because that's been told several times over in the stories, and it's always a fun avenue.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm
You know
just
what's
glad to
not
see
a
this
fun?
getting some. This seems to be getting some forward progress. It's still going to be a long way off. It's like Christmas 2021, I think. But yeah, I'm excited to see it. I love the first one. It was my favorite movie for a long time. I still really quite enjoy it. Game of Shadows was a bit disappointing, but I'm just glad to see us get back into that world of Sherlock Holmes. As we'll talk about later in our favorite TV characters, I'm just a sucker for anything Sherlock Holmes related, unless it's elementary. That's hot garbage. But I want to just jump back into the world. I really like Robert Downey Jr. as Sherlock Holmes. I like Jude Law as Watson. So I'm down for another one, even if it's long overdue. Now,
absolutely.
Josh, this next one, it's going to be
No, I
hard
don't
for
want to
both
talk
of us
about it. I don't
We're going
want
to talk about it, man. We have
I
to.
don't want to talk about it.
We have to. It's going to hurt us both, but we have to talk about it.
Oh, I don't understand.
So, one of Josh and I's favorite movies of 2017, and I'll speak for the both of us here. It was one of the most surprising movies for both of us in 2017.
Yes.
Was Power Rangers. This movie came out of nowhere and was excellent. As someone that didn't really grow up with the Power Rangers, I loved it. It was really, really good. I genuinely cared more about the people than them when they were suited up. Like when they were suited up and using the vehicles and everything else, it was fine. But I cared more about, oh no, is Zach's mom gonna be okay? What are they gonna do to pay the bills? What about Trini? Has she told her parents about herself? What about Kimberly? I cared more about the human characters than anything else. Everyone felt so three-dimensional and just you cared about them. They had really great chemistry. It still retained a little bit of that cheesiness of the original series, but you made sure that you cared about these characters. It was so well done. Now, Dacre Montgomery, the Red Ranger from that Power Rangers movie, has recently found success in Stranger Things in season 2, season 3. And he's great in that show. He was recently asked in a Reddit AMA about the status of Power Rangers and if they're making another one. And he unfortunately replied that since Saban was acquired by Hasbro, Hasbro seems to be making another Power Rangers movie, but with a new cast. They will be, seems like from his understanding, it will be a reboot and we will not be getting a sequel to the 2017 Power Rangers. I'll say this on the record. I'm not surprised at all by this, but it still hurts a lot.
Yeah, no, I'm really sad, honestly.
Yeah, because I genuinely think the 2017 Power Rangers will go down as a cult hit if it isn't already, because there is this loyal following for that first Power Rangers of sneaking up on people, of being, wow, that was really surprisingly good. But the thing is, not enough people went out to see it. It found some life when it came on Blu-ray. I don't know if the movie even broke even, so I can see why a studio would want to start over. But the way that they set up Green Ranger coming in the next movie with Tommy and the cast being as good as they were. I actually got
really excited to see Green Ranger. Oh my gosh, it made me so mad because they're like, oh, Tommy. And then there was the rumors like, are they going to make Tommy a girl or a boy? Like, oh my gosh. And I was like super excited about it.
I will say though, if they did make a Power Rangers sequel, I think the biggest obstacle getting in the Power Rangers way would actually be being able to afford the original cast, because since that first Power Rangers movie, almost all of them have blown up as megastars. Like I said, Dacre Montgomery is a big name star now due to Stranger Things. Ludi Lin was in Aquaman. There's rumors that he may be in Shang-Chi for the MCU. Naomi Scott just set the world on fire as Jasmine in the Aladdin movie. So 3 out of 5 of them doing incredibly well for themselves. So I can see them being quite expensive to bring back.
I can see that as well.
It is very disappointing though to hear that this is not coming, because that was such a good movie and such a good update to the, at times, easy to mock world of Power Rangers.
Oh, not even at times. It's super easy to mock all of it.
Oh yeah, but the movie kind of embraced that fun aspect of it.
So
it grounded itself in a real world easily.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm doing a little fan cast in my head, right? So let's say like complete reboot, right? They don't bring anybody back except for one.
Jason Franks?
No. So I'm thinking have Montgomery come back, but as Tommy.
I could see it.
Yeah. Especially with that long hair that he sports in Stranger Things, I could totally see him being Tommy.
I still kind of want him for Nightwing.
I mean, I agree. Don't get me wrong.
I saw a great meme though that it was you've seen those memes though. It's like Mom, can we get whatever? We have whatever at home. So it was like, Mom, can we have Zac Efron? We have Zac Efron at home. Zac Efron at home. And it's just Dacre Montgomery's Stranger Things.
Oh man.
I'm like,
he's going places, man. He's definitely going to be going places.
Oh, him and Naomi Scott are poised to just be big name stars. Along with Tom Holland, whose name seems to be attached to everything these days.
Oh yeah.
So our last news story, I was tempted not to put, but I'm keeping it on there because it's a very interesting prospect to say the least. So John Carpenter, one of my favorite horror directors. He's responsible for the original Halloween, which is still my favorite horror movie of all time. He's getting in the comic book business, apparently, as he is co-writing a one-shot Joker comic coming out this Halloween. I think this is fantastic.
I mean, if you're going to get anybody to write that, yeah, John Carpenter that's your guy, man.
I will say John Carpenter can be a bit hit or miss with horror, because as much as he's got The Thing and Halloween, he's got quite a few that no one really remembers anymore for good reason.
Yeah.
But we've had these one-shot stories before. Heck, The Killing Joke is one, to say the least. I like these one-shots of just different storytellers' interpretations of characters or what they could bring to the table. So I'm very curious to see what he brings. I like the fact that he's co-writing it and he's not solely responsible for stuff. I think he can bring a lot of creative ideas to the table. So I'm hyped to see what goes down with this.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Now, if they want to be creative and bring in the money or just reward some of us, what they should do is make it a DC Universe exclusive.
Ooh.
Because they haven't really made any comics exclusives. They have show exclusives like Young Justice or Titans, but make a comic exclusive. That's assuming the show hasn't been dissolved into HBO Max by then.
Yeah.
But I'd say make that an exclusive, but need to say, I will absolutely be picking this up. Just more out of curiosity to see what he brings to the table.
Oh, absolutely. I'm always down for that.
And I just like Carpenter, assuming he's not involved with the Halloween movies, which apparently are shooting back to back like we talked about last week.
Yeah, which could be good or bad.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Josh, you got a sponsor for us this week?
Yeah, why not? Today's sponsor is Sonic for their half-price shakes after 8.
I was just about to say, you going with the Sonic sponsorship?
Absolutely. I think it's what's funny is if you listen to the show consistently.
It's normally what Josh is eating tonight.
Yep. Always.
Almost always. Yep. All right. Well, last week we talked about our favorite movie characters, and we're like, well, sometime we'll do our favorite TV characters. Well, I'm glad you waited for that whole week before we got into this. So, at least for me personally, I have stuff from kind of all generations. I've got new stuff, old stuff, live action stuff, animated stuff. I'm all across the board right now. But I gotta start off strong with my easily, hands down, bar none, my favorite TV show character of all time, Sean Spencer from Psych.
I knew it. I knew it. Oh man, I was sitting here like listening to us talk about news and stuff, and my brain wandered to the list, and I was like thinking about shows that both you and I have seen, and I was like, oh man, I hope we talk about Psych tonight.
You could literally put the entire cast of Psych. Actually, in my notes, I have Sean and Gus because the two of them, they're like peanut butter and jelly. Individually, they're great. You kind of lean a little bit more towards the peanut butter, but together, they're great. That is Sean and Gus. Sean especially, Sean Spencer's just my favorite. And again, I said, I lean towards the Sherlock Holmes characters. Psych is literally just a Sherlock Holmes modern incarnation.
He really is, but it's...
with Sean being your Sherlock, being the socially awkward, but genius guy who has a medical assistant.
Which is legitimately Gus.
Yep.
Who sells pharmaceuticals.
Which there may come a day where I am no longer entertained by Gus's girly squeals, but it is not this day.
Absolutely.
But then, honorable mention to the one Psych character that never gets nearly enough love, Woody the Coroner.
Oh, absolutely.
I love the Coroner so much. But honestly, anybody from Psych, it's just, the show's so well casted. Lassie's great. Jules is great. Henry Spencer's great. I actually almost corrected somebody on my Facebook timeline today because they had some Sean Spencer quote, and I was like, that's a Henry Spencer quote.
Yep.
Amateur.
What is this, amateur hour?
Psych was and always will be my all-time favorite show, and Sean, just the quick, fast as a bullet pop culture references. I wonder why I like his character so much.
Yeah.
With his fantastic hair, let that be known.
Yeah. So let's keep along this train of drama-esque shows with a lot of comedy in them. I was gonna nominate Dr. Cox and JD from Scrubs.
See, I have one of those names. I have Dr. Cox, but not JD. I have Dr. Cox and Turk.
Yeah!
I much prefer Turk over JD. JD starts cool, but towards the later seasons, not a fan of his character. He gets
fair enough,
really
but he's
annoying.
He's also the reason why anytime I go to a bar and I see somebody order an apple teeny, I laugh to myself. But generally speaking, the whole cast is incredible.
Oh yeah, you have Carla, who honestly never changes, but that's a good thing. She stays the mama bear from season 1 all the way to the end. Turk has some really good growth as the immature frat guy to a somewhat responsible father of 2 kids.
I mean, he grows where he needs to. Like, there's times where JD tries to pull him back back down to where he is, and Turk's like, man, I can't. Like,
I'm a dad now.
I've got a kid. Like, I can't be doing all this stuff. Like, I still love you. You're still my best friend.
And they still do their stupid stuff.
Yeah.
But they do it a little more responsibly.
Oh, man. What is her name? The older black nurse.
The one that died and then immediately came back in the next episode as somebody with a different name.
Yeah, it was hilarious. I was like, is this really what they're doing? And then just kind of accepted it.
Although the character that makes me laugh the most is Janitor, easily.
Oh, absolutely.
Because most of his stuff was improv. But we've talked about it numerous times I love Dr. Cox because he's a very interesting and complex character. Honestly, to me, he's the actual hero of the show.
Oh, absolutely.
He's what literally holds everything together. And his arc, to me, is even more fascinating than Turk's.
I would agree.
Where he starts in season 1 all the way to, spoiler alert, becoming the chief of medicine for season 3 and almost kind of seeing why Kelso was the way he was for so many seasons.
Yes.
And
not just that, but I feel like he has the biggest arc out of all of them.
with his relationship with Jordan, the relationship with his kids, and more or less being like, my childhood sucked. I am not my father, though.
Yes. I think, to me, the moment I realized Dr. Cox was not the same from season 1 all the way up to this moment was Carla and Turk's wedding.
And when he wanted to actually be with Jordan?
Yes. Like, and just the stuff that he talks about with Carla in that episode. It's you see, like, this isn't just the angry kind of douchey guy that was also really smart, so he was hard to not respect him, but he's kind of a jerk all the time. But then, like, you get to that moment and this isn't that guy. He's sweet, he is caring, and he's like, you understand, like, the anger doesn't come from a place of I just hate the world. It comes from a place like I love what I do, and I like to do what I do at a high level, and I need everybody else to get up to that level as well.
I think because he's such a cold and somewhat emotionally distant character, when he shows emotion, it makes it that much more powerful. I will always say that the saddest moments of Scrubs always somehow revolve around Dr. Cox. With the two being...
Totally. The episode with Ben.
Oh, that's the one that I can never get through without just crying. Dude, when Brendan Fraser's character dies. Oh. Dude. Because even when you know it's coming, because they drop some interesting foreshadowing throughout the whole episode, it's a gut punch.
It really is. It's...
See that, but the moment that always gets me even more is when he's so desperate to save that patient that he... save his patients. Actually, he once that one patient dies, he gives them all the different organs, but they were all infected organs, and he loses all 3 of the patients, and he just flips out, like flips over the defibrillator, and just freaks out and quits on the spot with tears in his eyes. And I was like, oh, that's hard to watch.
Yeah,
because you've watched this guy for so many seasons now of just being nothing phases him. Everything rolls off his back. And you've seen, like, other characters have had someone die on them. Like, JD's had people die on him. Elliot's had people die on him. And they've had to deal with it in another way. But then Dr. Cox, it just all blew up. And it was just, that's such a powerful scene.
Yeah. I think the thing, it's a bigger deal when it happens to Cox. Because
absolutely.
He's Dr. Cox. Like, he doesn't lose people. People, like, you want to get better, you go to Dr. Cox. The man's got your back. Like, I mean, crap, half of my comebacks and all of, like, the crap talking that I do in like at
just
work.
Calling people
like,
girls' names like Nancy?
Oh yeah, is from Dr. Cox. Just
his monologues are just the best.
Oh, they're the best. And, like, my brain always, like, gets attached to, like, weird things. Like when he calls JD out for taking too long for shopping for shirts because he's nervous about his nipples poking out. It makes me laugh every time. Whenever him and what is his name? The big buff dude who's all, like, always about the sexual stuff.
Todd?
When they're, like, working out and trying to get Turk to go to work out with him, whatever, and he's like, the moment you're happy with how you look is the moment you lose. And I was like, well, okay.
It's because Cox is dead inside.
Yeah, I mean, he is, but he's not.
True. What else you got? You got a couple more? Because I got plenty more.
Oh, I got plenty more. I bring to the table, since we're kind of talking about this, I always try to, my goal every year is to try a new show that maybe I wouldn't before. Obviously, I gotta watch more than one show a year. But sometimes that's all I have time for. So a couple of years ago, I tried Frontiers with Jason Momoa.
Oh, is that the one where it's like him in kind of like a wilderness kind of like backwoods?
It's back in the days of the fur trading up in Canada, up in the Hudson Bay with all the Indians and stuff. And he basically, plays the typical. His character's name is Declan Harp, and he plays typical Jason Momoa.
I was about to say, Jason Momoa is playing Jason Momoa?
Yeah, basically. He's half Irish, half Cherokee, or something like that. So he's like, he's as cool as he can get, basically. I mean, the first time you meet him, he's like skinning a deer, and it's just he's a really, really cool character. But
Jason Momoa.
Yeah, but the interesting thing for me was Declan Harp is perhaps his deepest character, because the more you learn about him, the more you understand why he's very like kind of withdrawn, why he's okay with sometimes with taking certain risks and stuff like that. He's a very interesting character, and obviously it's Jason Momoa, and he's got a certain level of awesome to him that it's hard to not be awesome when you're Jason Momoa.
Yeah, I don't know if it's possible for Jason Momoa to not be awesome at something.
Oh, absolutely.
You got it. While we're sticking with dramatic characters, you got any other dramatic roles?
Yeah, but it's both of them are from an anime. Actually,
go for it. Then I'll transition us to our animated characters.
Absolutely. So, have you ever watched Full Metal Alchemist, the Brotherhood series? All right. So, first of all, I think you would enjoy it. I know, to my knowledge, you're not that into anime, and that's okay.
I'm a casual.
Yeah, I mean, I am as well. But Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood has some of the coolest characters and some of the most interesting storylines. So basically, Full Metal Alchemist is about essentially. So the point in time when alchemy was, kind of the main study of science, of the way that the world worked instead of traditional science. The show is based upon the premise that alchemy is the direction that people went with as far as learning about the world and understanding the world, rather than traditional science, to the point where it's almost to a level of like magic, where people can like actually create and destroy things in seconds using alchemy and stuff. Of course, there's all kinds of different forms and blah blah blah. Anyway, the character his name's Colonel Mustang. He's like the head of police. Sorry, I've got like an Oreo in my throat. His alchemy is basically flames, but in order to make it happen, he has like a very specific design on the glove that he wears, and he snaps whenever he uses his flames. But his character is one that, much like Dr. Cox, comes off as cold and unfeeling and very like, I'm just here because I'm the colonel, and you're going to listen to me because I said so. And if you don't, I'm going to incinerate you. So, pick your poison. But as the show goes on, you learn more about his past and why he is the way he is, and to the point where this character that that's been by his side throughout the entire series, and you're not quite sure how he feels about her, but one of the main villains like legit goes after her, and he pins the villain against a wall and legitimately disintegrates the person. It's like almost a 5-minute scene of him just snapping over and over and over again and hearing the character scream. It's intense. But he is the perfect balance of intensity, but also like wise old brother kind of thing. Because the main character, who is also on my list, Edward, one of the main characters anyway, because it's about two brothers. He's very much, Mustang is very much an older brother to Edward, and the dynamic there is very interesting as well. I don't want to like say too much because I don't know if you'll ever watch the show, but it's a lot to unpack, so it's hard to just pinpoint one little thing.
Fair enough. I'll stay on the animated one with one that I know you'll agree with, of single-handedly one of the greatest animated characters, or especially original animated characters, of he's not based off anything. One of the greatest animated characters of all time, Uncle Iroh from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yes.
I love Uncle Iroh. There has not been a better mentor figure that I've ever seen in a TV show. He's like Mr. Miyagi meets an old seasoned general, mixed with a loving father, mixed with a little bit of Alfred. He's just everything a mentor figure should be. But it was interesting because Uncle Iroh was always on the bad side. And as a kid watching a quote unquote kid show at the time, to have such an interesting and complex character on clearly the villain side, when these were the days of Prince Zuko definitively being one of the main villains for Avatar before his incredible face turn over the show to being one of the main protagonists against his own father, Fire Lord Ozai. To have almost kind of being rooting for Uncle Iroh from day one because he was this like level-headed, good figure of. There's that great scene of Uncle Iroh's in prison for something, but the way that they shoot the scene with Zuko visiting him in prison, Uncle Iroh's the one in the light and Zuko's the one in the dark, even though Iroh's the one in prison, and just the symbolism was brilliant for that. Iroh was one of the wisest characters I've ever seen in a show. He's so good. And we've said this before in our 5 Good Things. Uncle Iroh is one of the few things they actually did right in the live-action movie. I have both Uncle Iroh and Aang. All of the last Airbender show was so incredibly well cast and just so well written. You could have Iroh, Aang, Zuko, Toph, anybody. The show is so well written. It has some of the best characters ever created, not just for an anime show, some of the best characters for a show, period.
Oh, dude. Yeah, no, because Uncle Iroh, there's always parts of the show that you don't think you'll remember, or you haven't watched the show in a long time and you forget certain points. Recently at work, actually, we were talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender, and one of the guys that I did not peg for someone to watch as someone that watched animated shows started singing the song that he sings in that episode where he's grieving the loss of his son. And I was just like stopped on the grill and was like, no, why would you give me that emotion at this particular time?
See, I don't remember that song. I just remember the one song that sparked the legend that is Secret Tunnel Through the Mountain.
No, it's the episode. It's the section episode where Appa gets taken.
Oh yeah.
Where he's singing to the portrait of his son.
I wrote from episode 1. You root for him more than almost anybody else, and that does not change. He is one of the few morally good, but will do whatever it takes to protect his family and protect Zuko.
Yes. The other character I'll nominate from that show that I think is just as important as everybody else is Sokka.
Sokka.
Not Sokka.
It's
man.
Definitely Sokka. We're not going with the Shyamalan pronunciation here.
But yeah, Sokka is legit the best, in my opinion, the best character of the series.
Easily
the funniest. Because I'm. But to me, he's one of the only ones outside of Iroh that actually has to deal with some really intense stuff.
Oh gosh, with his girlfriend?
Yeah, falling in love. He's the only one that I don't count Katara falling in love with Jet because Jet, I hated Jet from the day we met him. But with Sokka falling in love with the Water Tribe princess, and then she has to leave, and how do you do that knowing that she's up there in the sky every night? Dude.
Yeah, he's one that he's jokey and he's fun, but when he's serious and needs to turn it on and have emotional depth to him, they really give him emotional depth.
Oh, dude. And to me, he's one of the only characters that doesn't need to, but feels like he is constantly have to prove why he deserves to be there with the Avatar.
Yeah, because you got the Avatar, the one that's going to save the world, a water-bending sister, an earth-bending friend in Toph, who MVP. Toph is the best.
Oh, absolutely.
And even Zuko, when he turns face as the fire instructor, he's the only one that really can't do anything. So he has to try more than anybody else to justify his position on the card.
Quote unquote justify, because to
But in
me,
the end, doesn't he more or less become the leader? He's the Neville Longbottom.
Always the leader. Yeah, he's completely the leader, especially like by the end of the series when they start planning the entire invasion. He's the one they go to, and it's not just the Avatar, core gang. It's everyone. They're like, okay, well, we need a leader. Sokka, where you at? Like, he's especially after he gets his meteor sword, that he just turns into this leader that is always cracking out great jokes.
So, piggybacking off your reluctant leader one, I'm gonna go with one that I feel like this show, it found its audience with diehard fans, but the casual Star Wars fan never really latched onto this show like they did with Rebels. No, what they did with Clone Wars, and I'm talking about Star Wars Rebels. And the character in question for me is Freddie Prinze Jr.'s Kanan Jarrus.
Dude.
Love Kanan so much. And I know quite a few people that never gave Rebels a fair shake because it wasn't Clone Wars. And yes, it's more child-friendly than Clone Wars was. But when it gets serious, oh man, it gets serious. And Kanan Jarrus is responsible for a lot of the serious moments. I like his character because he's the mentor figure, but he's a mentor figure that his own mentorship was cut short because of Order 66. So he's a dude that's learning just as much as Ezra is, the dude he's training. So when Ezra's like, why do it this way? I don't know, because I was never taught this. And he often has to come up with the whole, I don't know what to do here, because Ezra, in all honesty, is more powerful than I am. But I have to keep teaching him, and I don't know how to do that.
The show in general is incredible and gets more and more serious as it goes along.
I still say it's one of the most underappreciated things in Star Wars canon. Not nearly enough people give it the credit it deserves.
Well, I've seen people write it off simply because they don't like the animation style.
Yeah, the animation does take a little bit to get used to, but I'll be honest, man, there's stuff that hits hard. How did you finish Rebels?
I'm not completely done. The last thing I remember was a certain not so cut in half character came back.
Oh wow, so you're a little bit behind.
Yeah.
So this goes without saying, but not all the characters in Rebels are there when the show ends, obviously, because certain characters don't show up in the original trilogy. There is, I'll spoil it for you now, Kanan, of course, doesn't make it, because you can't have a Jedi in regular timeline. When he goes, I am open enough to admit, I bawled my eyes out because of how they do it. Oh my goodness. They kind of foreshadowed through that whole episode that he's going to bite it, but the way that they do it, because, again, brief spoilers, in his first encounter with Darth Maul at the end of season 2, Darth Maul makes him blind. So, I'm about to spoil the whole thing for you here, Josh, because you've had plenty of time.
I have
to give proper context of why it's so powerful. So, Hera, his longtime love interest / whatever we want to call this, I'll just call it love interest. She's been captured by the Empire, and they mount a rescue mission to get her. So they finally get her. They're just about to board the escape ship, but they're on top of an oil tanker. And so a big old walker comes along and shoots at them and blows up the tanker that they're on. And Kanan is holding back the explosion with the Force as he's pushing Ezra and Hera onto the ship. And he looks at Hera with his blind eyes, and the Force gives him sight one last time so that he can see her as he's engulfed by the flames.
Jeez.
And I'm just like, don't you dare tell me that this is a kid's show.
Jeez.
And that's how he goes out. And I'm like, oh man. And it was so beautifully done. And it was a long-term story. And his character is so well done. Freddie Prinze Jr. does not get the recognition he deserves as a voice actor. He's phenomenal as Kanan.
I would love to see Freddie do more, honestly.
He's great. His podcast is hysterical. He's a great dude.
He really is.
I got one more animated one. Do you got any more animated ones before I go into another mini rant?
But they're all anime, and I'm really bad at describing animes, so.
Do one more anime, and then I'll do my last animated one, and then we'll do some more live action ones.
Yeah. So this next one's from from a show called My Hero Academia.
Yep, I'm familiar.
The main two characters actually, Deku or Midoriya and Bakugo, are cheese, dude. You know me, I am a sucker for good storytelling, and just a little background because Josh is a nerd. I hate Naruto because the main character is super annoying. I can't get behind him. And when we first meet Midoriya, he's really annoying, and he cries all the time. And it's I just want to reach on the screen and smack him. But by the end of season 1, I'm fully behind him. Like, yeah, no, dude, let's go. Like, you believe this kid can conquer anything he puts his mind to, because anytime a character says, I'm going to do this, and you're like, okay, well, the writer is obviously, you're supposed to say that, like, I'm the hero of the story. I'm going to tell everybody I want to be a superhero, so I'm going to do it. And you're like, all right, cool, whatever. But kid, you don't have any powers. Like, how's that going to happen? And then he just, it's incredible. And to watch Bakugo, who could easily be a villain, legit get captured by villains and literally looks them all in the eye and goes, why would you think that that's a path I want to go down? Because they're a bunch of idiots. And just like tries to destroy them all. It's a fantastic show.
So you made me think with a character that you absolutely hated but then grew to love. I'll talk about one of those in live action in a little bit here, but I'll do with my last animated character that I'm sure you, Josh, could figure out very easily. I'll give you one guess. Animated.
Is it? Are you gonna talk about Drake Bell's Spider-Man?
No, that's not on my list. Actually, I've been meaning to tell you something. So on Vudu, my movie collection service, they have like free stuff. So I've actually been catching up on, I feel like I'm cheating on it, but Spectacular Spider-Man.
Okay.
Which animation is still but it's actually a really good Spider-Man. I really enjoy it. But no, it is a superhero though. Jesse McCartney's Nightwing from Young Justice. Because Nightwing has to be somewhere at all times. But not just that. He is the second best Nightwing we've ever gotten, behind Neil Patrick Harris in Under the Red Hood. I still love that Nightwing a lot.
He's fantastic.
But his Nightwing, his Dick Grayson just in general, has grown from season 1 to the season 3 of Young Justice. I particularly love season 3, Dick Grayson Nightwing, just because that feels the most Nightwing to me. But as someone that's been wanting Nightwing forever, I just love what they've done with him on the show. He's so the Nightwing that I know and love. It's just nice to see a character just come to life, even if it's just in an animated show. Just the character journey that he's gone through of just this cocky, annoying brat at times in season 1 who was just like, I'm the leader. Who made you the leader? I did, because I am assistant to Batman. To having that leadership stripped away and given to Aqualad, only for Aqualad to go, no, Robin's the right one. And then Robin giving it back to him at the end of season 1, but becoming a really good team leader for season 2, leading a really big grouping for season 3. I just love what they've done with Nightwing. I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of what they do with him for season 3. And I never would have thought in a million years that I'd be a fan of Jesse McCartney as a superhero.
Yeah.
He does a great Nightwing, though.
He does.
All right. I got a couple random live action ones now, transitioning back to live action. But before we get to mine, Josh, what do you got for some live action ones?
Let's see if I had any left on the list that I came up with.
Well, while you're thinking of some, I'll go with the one that let's talk about earlier, that you said characters that you hated but you grew to love. There's one character that is on a show that's very popular right now that I will admit, season 1, I absolutely despise this character with a passion. And then they almost did a double turn between him and another character in season 2, and I began to hate that character and love this other character. The show, Stranger Things.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh!
I hated Steve Harrington.
Yes!
And now he is by far the best thing on Stranger Things.
Oh my gosh, I
hated season 1, Steve Harrington, but we're supposed to. And then they do this very odd thing for season 2 of almost kind of turn, what's her name?
Nancy.
They almost kind of turn Nancy heel and do a double turn of make you feel bad for Steve, because almost everything Steve has gets taken away from him. And Nancy just becomes this brat. Thankfully, she's better for season 3. I really much enjoy her in season 3. But Steve became almost like Papa Bear of looking out for Dustin and the rest of the kids in season 2. Even more so in season 3, he goes full Papa Bear. And I just love Steve Harrington in Stranger Things so much.
Steve is legit his interactions with Dustin alone in
also
season
Dustin
2.
Is on my list too.
What a guy.
Just spin-off show Steve and Dustin, please. Just call Ships Ahoy.
No, get out of here.
The two of them have such great chemistry. Just the arc he's gone on from just absolute jerk. I hated him so much in season 1 to being the I will protect everyone at all costs. But also, we can't talk about Stranger Things without talking about Hopper. Hopper is easily the more emotionally complex character compared to Steve, though. There's much more at play with Hopper of the whole his daughter that died before the show and adopting 11 more or less to be his surrogate daughter. Granted, season 3, he's become more of a comedic character, but the way that they make him, I actually really enjoyed his comedy in season 3. He's great. His humor really worked, at least for me.
I'm only 2 or 3 episodes in, but I don't like Hopper in season 3.
Then you probably won't like him. The tone that they set pretty early on with him being more comedic and having some of that banter with Joyce, that's kind of what you're going to get for a lot of season 3.
Here's the thing. It has nothing to do with the comedy, because I see the comedy and it's kind of funny. I enjoy it. But it's his interaction with Will. Not Will.
Then don't worry about that.
The thing with 11
without going too much into the story details, he's not going to interact with Will and 11 a whole lot.
Yeah.
The rosters are going to be split to do their own side missions.
Yeah, it put a bad taste in my mouth about him.
That'll get fixed, don't worry.
I'm sure it better quick, but yeah.
Transitioning. This is going to be a leap, but just follow me here and you can thank me later. On my list of all-time favorite TV show characters, let's just say Steve Harrington isn't the only Steve on my list.
Okay.
Drake and Josh's Crazy Steve.
Oh my goodness.
I have never laughed at a character harder in my entire life than Crazy Steve. And you don't think he left that much of an impact? But still to this day, if I say cock-a-doodle-doo, what comes next, Josh?
The cow says moo. You ate my enchilada.
There was no note.
You ate my enchilada.
Or
oh man,
just his madness is a different kind of madness of when he eats the enchilada. You're not mad at me? No, it's not my time. My therapist has given me a special time that I'm allowed to get mad at the world for the day. Well, what time is that? Only me and my therapist are allowed to know that. Like, I was very tempted to put Spencer from iCarly because I just love Jerry Trainer and Nickelodeon shows, but I love Crazy Steve just a little bit more. He was the single greatest addition to Drake and Josh. He is so good. I still remember whenever there was a Drake and Josh episode on TV and my mom was watching, it was always the episode where they get trapped in the house and he's watching Dora the Explorer.
Jeez.
Obre los ojos. It's right behind you.
I hope Oprah gets canceled. You take that back. I love Drake and Josh.
Like, I still would have loved a Crazy Steve spinoff show. Oh, dude, just imagine it. Crazy Steve living in a mental ward.
No, they did
like
a spinoff show.
Don't say that he's actually Spencer.
he's in iCarly. I don't know what you're talking about.
Just Drake and Josh in general has such good comedy. Of rewatching it now as an adult, there's a lot of jokes that I just didn't catch. Of just, this is really well written, just snappy dialogue. And they should have introduced Crazy Steve a lot sooner because he was like a mid-show acquisition. He wasn't there from the get-go.
But he was a great addition, and the show definitely changes once he's there.
Yes, because there's almost this, like, the show already was random, but add in Crazy Steve coming out wielding 2 bras and chocolate milk.
Yep.
And it becomes even more random. Or was it Gavin? Was the hippie? I'm gonna go take a nap on the roof.
Because why not?
That show just had so many great quirky characters, and I love Crazy Steve. And when I was looking back on my list, I was like, I gotta have Crazy Steve on here somewhere. All right, who else you got? Because I've got 2 more sets. I got a set of 2 and 1 old school character.
Jeez. Oh yeah. I'm trying to think, man. It's been a while. I've never been one, unfortunately, to watch a lot of TV.
I watch too much.
I mean,
honorable mention: Buzz Lightyear Star Command characters, because we talked about that last week.
Obviously, jeez, and that's what I'm trying. Oh, Samurai Jack.
Oh yeah, that was your show, man.
That is, dude, that's my show, man. Partly because it was of how unique it is in its storytelling, in its dialogue, and in its presentation. Yeah, dude, Samurai Jack's he is the dude.
Well, Samurai Jack was your show. One of my shows was and always will be Sherlock.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
Because, of course, Psych is a reference to the Sherlock, but when I was talking earlier about Sherlock characters, I was more specifically referring to the characters from Sherlock. Benedict Cumberbatch will always be my favorite Sherlock. He is so good on that show. Like, it is not even funny. Because he nails incredible. The Sherlock role of emotionally cold, but incredibly brilliant. You just know it. But I have another character. It's Sherlock, but not Watson as my other character that I love from the show. It's Sherlock and Moriarty. And I know you're going to disagree with that.
I love that Moriarty.
Oh, I don't know why, but I was under the impression that you didn't like this Moriarty.
No,
I love Andrew Scott's Moriarty so much.
He's incredible. And I think the thing about him is that he is exactly like Sherlock, only completely different.
Yes, I still think the Reichenbach episode, the season 2 finale, where they square off on the roof, is the single greatest hour and a half of television I've ever watched because of those two characters' interaction. I could just watch that rooftop scene all day. That is so well written, well acted. His Moriarty. The only mistake they made with him was killing him off so soon.
But the scene is done so well. And the good thing is the following episode where because they have to explain everything, it doesn't take away from the magic. And it doesn't at all make you feel like, oh, that couldn't have happened.
I'm kind of disappointed we haven't seen more of Andrew Scott. I loved his Moriarty so much that I would love to see him in more big movies. The last time I saw him he was kind of a minor villain in Spectre, the most recent James Bond. Maybe have him as Riddler. I would love that.
Absolutely.
His Moriarty is, to me, the Moriarty that you compare all your other Moriartys going forward to, just like you compare all your Sherlocks going forward to Benedict Cumberbatch's Sherlock.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just the writing was so good for that show, the acting is so good, but Sherlock and Moriarty, I have their pops. I love the two characters so much. Now, before I go into my last one, Josh, you got any last closing ones?
I'm struggling, man. I'm really struggling here. I'm trying to think of some live action shows. This
may tip you off to what my last one was, but then again, this is going in the Wayback Machine. Honorable mentions, some old school Disney characters that I grew up with. Shia LaBeouf's character, Even Stevens, or Beans. Both of them are great.
Yeah.
Ron Stoppable, always great.
Always.
Wade.
Always great.
But this one, not nearly enough people talk about this show, and it was one of, if not my favorite Disney Channel show, and I'm sure there are people out there listening that can already figure out what I'm talking about, and they're going, yep, this is great, and more people need to remember it. Famous Jet Jackson.
I don't think I remember that show.
Not nearly enough people do. It's so sad, too, because he even had a TV movie, which was really good, too. So, do you remember Smallville?
Yeah.
The guy that played Cyborg on Smallville.
Okay.
He had a show way back in the day called... Oh, he was also Turk's protege on the last season of Scrubs.
Yeah.
He had a show back in the day, and it was my favorite show on Disney Channel called Famous Jet Jackson, where it was this kid who went to school like every other kid on a Disney show, but his other job was as a TV star. And so, but it wasn't like Hannah Montana where there was like a laugh track or anything else. It actually was more, in terms of addressing real world issues, closer to That's So Raven, except even more dramatic, of his dad is a cop, and there is one episode where his dad gets shot at. And so his dad has like PTSD for the next several weeks of like someone's car alarm goes off and his dad like flips out of, there's another episode where some books are banned. And so the kids are reading the book in school in form of protest, as a form of peaceful protest. Or there's another episode where, Jet Jackson is given a gun on the TV show to defeat the villains, and the character of Jet Jackson is just like, I don't know if I'm comfortable promoting gun violence to kids, considering this is supposed to be a kids superhero show type of thing. And so he like has to wrestle with, am I okay with using weapons on a kids show type of thing. It was like an actual really serious but well done show. Man. And it's so hard to find nowadays. And just Jet Jackson as a whole, it was very real. It was really human. It felt like a family. It felt, particularly the main character, he felt like a regular kid. There wasn't some annoying laugh track being like, laugh here. There was some moments of humor, but by and large, it was more of a believable family drama. And Jet Jackson was such a good, relatable character. He's one of the most human characters that Disney Channel has ever done. But it's sad to say it just doesn't really get the love or appreciation it really deserves. And his movie, the famous Jet Jackson movie, is where it's super meta. There's like a portal that they create for the movie within the movie. So the premise of the movie is famous Jet Jackson is like, all right, so we're making a movie, right? Yep. So he goes through this portal where his acting, like his character on the show, comes to the real world, and the real world, Jet Jackson, goes into the movie world, and they're swapped.
Oh, wow.
And it's actually really, really clever commentary of like the actors like trying to talk to the villain. He's just like, oh, hey, Marv, whatever. And of course, the villain's just like, what are you even talking about? And it was really, really well done. Not enough people have talked about, remember famous Jet Jackson, but he's one of the most human and relatable characters in any Disney show. And I'm like, this is my platform. This is my hill I die on, that it's the best Disney show with the best character.
You know what that reminds me of a little bit?
Oh?
Static Shock.
Yeah, a little bit. It was kind of like Static Shock, except Jet Jackson didn't have any powers. But in terms of like, also it very much, just like Static Shock, it dealt a lot with race issues too, because Jet Jackson was a black family, and it dealt with like racism before even That's a Raven did. So yeah, it was very similar to Static Shock in terms of it's like it can be for kids, but it can also teach kids about mature things.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what Static Shock is really good at.
If you can ever find episodes, I'd say seek out Famous Jet Jackson. Oh my gosh, if that is on Disney Plus, they will have a membership for life from me.
No, I think they're going to have a membership for life from all of us. So,
except for you, you're going to find somebody else.
Well, yeah.
Well, I think that'll about do it for us tonight. Let us know in the comments below what your favorite TV characters are of all time are. We always love hearing from you guys. And as always, if you like what you hear and you want to hear more, subscribe to us on whatever audio platform you're listening to us on, whether that's Google Podcast, iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube. And as always, if you haven't subscribed to us already on YouTube, subscribe to us at Uncharted Media. And as always, stay sharp, movie guys and gals.